afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us again for another one of our Sensorial Journeys webinars. If you have not joined one of our webinars before, just a little bit of housekeeping as we're going through the webinar. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask us, please use the Q&A feature here on Zoom, and we'll do our very best to address your question either in real time or via the Q&A board. We'll also leave a little bit of time at the end of the webinar to answer any questions that you might have as we're going through. So really quickly, my name is Jet Hadaway. I am kind of the CFO slash
Little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. We wear a lot of hats around here of Life Beyond the Room. And then Karen, you can introduce yourself really quickly for those that don't know you already.
Yeah, well, hopefully I know most of you that joined us here. Sorry about my voice. I have a little cold, but thankfully we are not in person, so we can still do this. But yeah, I'm one of the destination experts here. So chances are, if you worked with us, you have talked to me or one of our other team members. So really excited to do a second webinar on the Amalfi Coast. This is going to be different than the first one. The first one was more on off season, right? Where can we go? What's open during the off season? And we covered a lot of hotels. This one is going to be a lot more informational, right? So if you're here to just get the names of 20 hotels, this is not the right webinar. So it's going to be a lot of information on this stunning place that we absolutely love, but it just keeps coming up and it keeps being used and traveled too often in times in the wrong way, in a way that we don't like to see, because it kind of, tends to destroy those places. So won't say any more. I'll let Jack cover a couple other things and then we'll jump right in.
Awesome. Sounds great. So before we get started, again, for those of you that have not worked with us before or just are thinking about working with us as your go-to DMC here in Italy, we'd like to kind of build a little bit of context around how we work and where we are the best fit. So first and foremost, we're a very mission-driven organization as a DMC. We believe that we are the keepers of tradition and culture through travel. So we think, obviously travel is an incredibly powerful way of preserving culture and tradition through being very thoughtful and doing things that are very meaningful, supporting local. So we gear most of our attention towards curating experiences and itineraries that lend themselves to those values. So we are a multicultural and multilingual team. That is one of the things that makes our organization unique as a DMC, especially here in Italy. Some of us are US based. Myself, obviously, and from the States. Karen spent about 12 years in the States, which is where we got married, had kids. And so we have this really unique multicultural perspective and approach when it comes to travel designing. And that is to say that most of our team, though we are based here in Italy, we have the insights and the local knowledge that you would expect from a DMC, while bringing at the same time the cultural sensitivities of the American audience. And so we bring those two things together very nicely. And then just a little bit about how we work. So we have a very, very strong emphasis on R&D. And that is to say that all of the vendors that we work with, all of our drivers, our guides, our experiences, especially our accommodations, everything that we provide in any itinerary to any travel advisor, we have vetted. Our team has actually gone there. We have built the relationship personally, and we've held all of those partnerships to a very high standard to maintain really great consistency across all of the itineraries that we built. We do provide turnkey itineraries. We work in Travefy primarily. However, we have just started working in Axis as well, because of course we found that a lot of our travel advisor partners work in one of the two. There are obviously plenty of other platforms, but we find that those two do cover most of the bases, and that allows us to provide you with a pretty great turnkey itinerary that is ready for presentation directly to your customers. So it kind of eliminates this whole having to migrate everything from a PDF into whatever platform that you're using. So we find that Travefy and Axis are really wonderful platforms to use for those. And then one of the things that makes us very unique as a DMC is the fact that we provide full local management. So our local managers are spread across the country. They are not only key in their role as travel designers and our R&D specialists for those regions, but they're also the main point of contact for your clients when they arrive in country. And one of the reasons that we want to do that is because we want to make this sort of international travel experience, especially to a place where there's a foreign language involved, as approachable as possible to an American audience. So sometimes knowing that you always have somebody on call, not only there to answer any questions around the itinerary, but also there if they have any needs as far as booking additional reservations, making any changes to those itineraries. And then of course, they're there as a 24-hour emergency line as well. So you really have somebody in your corner throughout the whole process. And of course, they keep you informed as well. And then in terms of accommodations, we get asked this a lot, you know, do you have to book all of the accommodations? Though we highly prefer working with our accommodation partners because we've established great negotiated rates with them, we have a great relationship with them, our local managers have a great relationship with them, which means that if anything comes up throughout the trip, they know exactly who to contact. They can solve problems very quickly, very efficiently. We do also recognize the fact that travel advisors have their own accommodation preferences and relationships. And of course, we're more than happy to be flexible on that basis from time to time. If it means working with a new accommodation, we always ask that it's an accommodation that you know very well and that you've had an established relationship with. Because of course, if we're just picking things off of Expedia or Travelocity, there is no guarantee of quality of service. If nobody's vetted it, if nobody has that relationship, it becomes a very difficult thing if something does come up or arises that the local manager needs to handle. So yes, we are flexible with regard to accommodation bookings. Yes, we do prefer to book with the partners that we know and trust.
Just so you know, they cannot see me. So
Oh, okay.
you can finish this quick part.
Yeah, and then I can kind of move on.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. Yeah.
Well,
She's nicer to look at anyway. So just again, to reiterate, we are for you. So we're a great fit for you if you're looking for turnkey itineraries. We are not for you if you're looking for that one-off transfer or that one-off experience as a kind of part and parcel approach to an itinerary.
With that being said, I know you guys can see me, I'll come in the screen shortly, but of course, you know, with our trusted partner advisors that we've been working with for years, of course, if you have, you know, an exception and a request for a couple of days, 3 days, it doesn't meet the minimum budget, of course, we're going to make that exception, right? But we find that we are not able to support the same level of just excellence that we give when it just comes to a couple of days, right? So no, like Jet said, but of course there are exceptions to that.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, obviously we love working with advisors that charge a trip design fee. We love that because obviously that demonstrates that you've got a level of commitment from your client and also that they value your time and your services and the value that you're bringing. In terms of our minimum budget, we get asked this a lot. What is your minimum budget? We always say 10,000. That's just kind of a ballpark number. Obviously that varies depending on, you know, time, duration, and, you know, the level of experiences and accommodations. And then, you know, we love to see great value alignment. This is one of the reasons that we always have an intro call with all of our travel advisors before we begin working with you guys. The big thing is that, you know, good filtering leads to really great results, meaning that we don't want our travel advisor partners to send us all of their Italy business, right? We want to make sure that there's a really strong value alignment understanding of what we do best and where we work the best, so that you guys can be more selective in how you're working with us as a DMC partner here.
Great. Well, I can take it over. I don't move the screen because I'm afraid
Yeah,
that the
no,
whole technology is
Great.
it's gonna be messed up. But
All
all right. Can you guys see me now? Tracy, can you
They-
give me thumbs up? No. Can
They
they see
have to
me?
be able to.
Okay.
Because they can see me. There you go.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Well, great. Thank you, Jet, for all of that. And sorry if you already worked with us or been on one of the webinars to kind of reiterate that, but it's just important for some of the new advisors here. So let's talk about the Amalfi Coast really quick. Everybody knows this, so won't spend too much time on it. Obviously, best way to maximize time, Naples. There's now a lot of direct flights that come to Naples from the US, but of course, a lot of the times the Amalfi Coast ends up being one stop on a multi-week journey. And then, you know, driving, we don't recommend, even though I always drive because I go in the winter, we don't recommend, because even though it's a 3.5 hour drive, just getting through Naples, some of you may know, may take 2 alone, right? And then Sorrento again, getting through the Amalfi Coast. So usually driving during the normal busy season takes more about 5 hours. From Naples, especially if the flights are coming or leaving early in the morning, an hour 30, 45 minutes, you can get away with that. Let's see, how do I keep, click on it. Okay, perfect. Great, so just a quick snapshot. I know that a lot of people, you know, say, oh, let's base clients in Sorrento, right? And that's actually great if they're traveling off season. Sorrento is a bigger town, off season, there's not a lot of traffic. So an hour, you can probably get to Positano, right? The challenge is when you base people in Sorrento during the busy season, by the time they get to Positano, they may spend more like close to 2 hours in the car, and then let alone trying to get to more of the Amalfi Coast. So we really recommend, if clients want to go to the Amalfi Coast, stay on the Amalfi Coast, right? If instead they're traveling off season, or during the season they like Sorrento also gets very, very busy, then you can base them in Sorrento. But I would really suggest hyper localizing the experiences so that they don't spend most of their time in a car, right? Now, there are 15 little towns and villages in the Amalfi Coast. Most people only know those 3, Amalfi, Ravello, and Positano, right? Some of our favorites, if you've worked with us before, you'll know that we love Praiano, we love Vietri sul Mare, and now with Salerno Airport as well, that area is gonna start getting known, which again, depending on how things go, it could be a good or a bad thing, right? Because that side of the Amalfi Coast, closer, like basically anything past Ravello, it still maintains a lot more of its authenticity, because usually people stay within those 3 major areas. Now, I love this photo, and there's a whole video that I'll send when we send the recording, but we don't have time to watch it now. But this is how the Amalfi Coast used to look like. The Amalfi Coast, as you guys know, all small fishing villages. Now there are very few fishermen left. And then, you know, obviously tourism really started taking advent a lot before, even when it became a part of UNESCO in 1997. But basically before then, it survived on just agriculture, fishing and agriculture, basically lemon, olives, and making wine. And some crafts, right? Of course, the ceramic crafts has always been big, but only after the Amalfi Coast became so popular, the value of the ceramics skyrocketed, right? Because before you would find in all the locals' home, and it wasn't as expensive as it is today. So I long to see the Amalfi Coast kind of in that photo. It's just one of my favorites. And you can see the annual visitor flow. Last year, which was actually a little bit lower than the years before, there was about 1.5 million that came to the Amalfi Coast within a calendar year. So you can imagine, in a tiny country and a tiny place like ours, what this does to the local people. And don't get me wrong, the Amalfi Coast lives on tourism, right? Even though it's considered southern Italy, it's now one of the wealthier, right, areas, but it's so concentrated, right? Then you get out of there, you get to see how the real farmers live. It's just so isolated to one little space. So there's positive and negative aspects about it. And you can see this is a really visual chart on how everything shifted, right, from farming to tourism. Did you want to jump in on the graphs? I know you're a lot. I'm kind of going quickly through those, but if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A. So I would like to ask everybody a question, and please put it in the chat. I guess we would need to unmute you. So put the answer in the chat. I would love to know, why do people want to come to the Amalfi Coast? If some of you could just volunteer to put a couple words in there of just why, if you've heard people that want to come to the Amalfi Coast, some of your clients, I'd love to know the reasons why. And if nobody says it, that's okay. I'm gonna give you some of the, chat is disabled. Well, Q&A. Oh, it's Q&A. If you could use the Q&A, that would be great. We haven't gotten as far as to figuring out the chat. All right, well, nobody's volunteered. Okay, well, I'm gonna tell you some of the things that I hear. Okay, beautiful and talked about. Pretty, their friends have been, so they want to say they've been to. Instagram, Yep. People see it in movies and want to experience it. Absolutely right. Movies, music, they played a huge role in kind of this shift in boosting the tourism on the coast. Spectacular scenery. Absolutely. That's probably one of the things that I hear the most. Clients want to see a place that they have seen in so many photos. Great. So yeah, it sounds like everybody agrees, right, on the beauty, on the natural beauty and the views, which is absolutely true. There is nowhere else. There are some stretches of coastline in Sardinia that slightly resemble it, but definitely not with the cliff towns. And then of course you have Cinque Terre, which is different. So nothing to say to take away. The Amalfi Coast is spectacular, such a unique landscape that you won't find anywhere else. Now, people want to come to see the views, right? They want to come to enjoy La Dolce Vita. The challenge is that when they're coming together with this other 1.5 million, all within a couple of months, the views are often in time blocks by tourist buses, right? The whole place has become a theme park. They spend so much time in the car. And again, this is one of the myths here. A common myth is that Sorrento, right, is the best. Like I literally hear this almost on a daily basis. Sorrento, easy access to the Amalfi Coast. That's not the case. That's not the case during the busy tourist season. They're going to end up just being stuck behind tour buses and taking multiple hours to get to and from the Amalfi Coast. And then I also hear, oh, I want to go to the beaches, right? If you've been to the Amalfi Coast, there are a couple of pebbly beaches, you know, in the towns, a couple that you have to climb down a bunch of stairs from. But if your clients want a beach vacation, we should probably reconsider the Amalfi Coast. Because you're right, the Amalfi Coast is for spectacular scenery, should definitely be for the food, right? Because this southern food, the food in Campania from the buffalo mozzarella, of course, the lemons and limoncello, also the wine, right? Not a lot of people know that the Amalfi Coast actually makes, and the whole Campania region makes some pretty excellent wines. And I think we could all agree that those things are best experienced when not everybody else next to us is trying to do the same thing, right? So of course, we talked about deseasonalizing, because what happened during the high season, you get stuck behind the buses, you have higher prices and overpriced, low quality meals. I can't stress this enough. It breaks my heart every time that somebody says they had a bad meal in Italy, right? Because unfortunately, people think, oh, I'm in Italy, anywhere I go, it's just going to be good food. Fortunately, that's not the case anymore, because of course, the more people can get away with things, you for things like frozen meals, those happen in places like Rome as well. So that's something that you definitely are more likely to stumble upon during the busy time versus low season, where the only restaurants that are open are the ones that the locals are going to. And then, of course, jam-packed. I mean, we never base people in Positano, but we take them there because, of course, they want to go. They've seen it. Instagram, right, friends? And usually after a couple hours, they call our driver, you know, get me out of here, because it truly is shoulder to shoulder traffic. So yeah, what happens during low season? Little to no traffic. So again, this is a good time if people want to also see Sorrento, right? Where the drive, the Amalfi Coast drive is beautiful. In fact, everybody, assuming that they don't get too car sick, right? Because of all the winding roads, everybody should have just a driving experience through all the villages when they can actually see the coastline. Lower prices, the Amalfi Coast, we've started already pricing lots of itineraries for 2026, and I'm baffled, is that the right word?
Yeah.
Baffled by the cost of some of either our own 4-star hotels that cost the same price as like the best suite at a 5-star hotel in even a place like Rome. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, so let's talk about some of our, I know we've already talked about Praiano in the last webinar, but I also wanted to introduce Vietri sul Mare, because again, also with the opening of the Salerno airport, it's on the very opposite, it's on the very end of the Amalfi Coast, closer to Salerno, but it's really beautiful, authentic town. And while we're still scouting for a perfect accommodation, I did want to share some of the experiences that we offer in this town and why people should make it a stop in their itinerary. Vietri, quintessential ceramics town. You will find ceramic shops, a couple of larger factory all throughout the coast, but Vietri sul Mare, you actually see the art built into the buildings, right? So if any of you have been nowhere else on the Amalfi Coast, even in Praiano, you'll see little ceramic tiles and pieces within the wall, but nowhere else on the Amalfi Coast has entire walls, entire stores made of ceramic tiles. So it's a really, really cool town. You can walk, you know, the whole thing in about an hour and a half. So we definitely recommend coming here either to just stroll, obviously having a guided experience, maybe visit one of the ceramic workshops or participate in one. There's a lot of artists that have always just been artists, and now they're slowly opening their doors, of course, to visitors, because that's good both for them to share and also to keep preserving, right, that local tradition. If people know about the craft, they buy the things, then it gives them the means to continue doing what they're doing. This is a slide that's here in all of our webinars. We're not going to focus too much on this because, like I said, this webinar is not accommodation heavy, but just so you know, you will see a brand score in each of our accommodations, and we score them on some of those categories to really make sure that they align with our values and what we stand for. Again, already touched on this. A recommended experience is definitely doing a walk here, meeting with a local artisan, perhaps participating in a ceramic workshop. And then we also have in Raito, which is the higher part of Vietri sul Mare, is the upper part, this amazing vineyard experience with a woman. Her name is Patrizia, who back in, I can't remember if it was 2010, she found those rescued vineyards. She didn't come. It's not one of those family where multi-generational have always farmed and always made wine. She found this amazing terrace, abandoned vineyards. She decided to rescue them, and now she makes some of the best wines. Very small production, as we like it, and you can do lots of different experiences here. Everything is super flexible and hyper customizable. And her sommelier, she actually, one of the experiences starts with a little walk around Vietri, a little bit of history of the town, and then you come up and then walk through the vineyards. Something to keep in mind, and this is anywhere on the Amalfi Coast, it's accessibility. The Amalfi Coast, it is not accessible friendly. Even just walking through a vineyard, everything is going to be on a very steep slope, terraced, and the stairs throughout the Amalfi Coast are everywhere. So just something to keep in mind. Sunsets are also spectacular from here, so definitely an experience that we recommend for your guests. Both, you know, this is a classic. We won't spend too much time on this. Something that we started doing the last couple of years during the busy season to avoid people getting stuck in something that should take 30 minutes for 2 hours, we actually transfer people by boat, right? So if your clients have the budget, instead of get in the car, do the transfer, you know, get stuck in traffic, then hop on your boat, which often, you know, the hotels that we use, they often have a dock where you can hop right on the boat, and then maybe you go to Vietri by boat, right? Because from Amalfi, without traffic, it's only 45 minutes, because of course you're going 25 miles an hour. But with traffic, it could take upwards of 2 hours. So transferring by boat when there is a budget is definitely a must. And then of course, Capri, you know, we always do one day on the boat to Capri. And if they just want to see the island from the sea, 100% can do that. However, we'll talk a little bit about this later. Capri is best visited by staying on the island to kind of also help with the mass tourism issue with daily visitors. Another one of our favorite town, which location-wise probably beats all of them because people want to go to Amalfi, Ravello, and Positano, is Praiano. Praiano is literally in between Positano and Amalfi. So Positano is the first known town on the Amalfi Coast that you'll meet coming from Sorrento. Praiano is literally 15 minutes from Positano, 15 minutes from Amalfi without traffic. But at least, you know, at least if your clients are based here, a lot of the times we'll have them go to Positano for dinner, right? Where all the tour buses for the day have left after 6 p.m. and then they can catch a taxi or get a transfer back, and it shouldn't take them more than those 15 minutes. Praiano, we talked about views. Praiano, Vietri also, but Praiano is probably the place on the Amalfi Coast outside of Ravello, of course, because of its elevation, where you get the most beautiful view of the coastline. And guess what this is? Does anybody know what this is? That's Positano. So from Praiano, you actually get beautiful views of Positano. When you're in Positano, you can't see anywhere because you're blocked on either side. You're actually in this little cove. So yes, you can see the water, but you don't have an open view of the coastline. From Praiano, you can see this entire coastline and you can see the Faraglioni of Capri on a clear day. So in terms of views, it's the most spectacular. Sunset, better in Vietri and Ravello because it's higher and it sets behind the mountain. But in terms of the view of the coastline, and even at sunset, as soon as the sun goes behind the mountain, everything turns pink. So it's really beautiful. This church right here, highly recommend. We have a specific guide on our itinerary for Praiano. It's called the Church of San Gennaro, one of the most beautiful. To me, outside the Duomo of Amalfi, obviously spectacular. Inside this church, all ceramics, just a party of colors. It's so beautiful. So definitely recommend visiting it. Opening hours, just depends when the local priests get up. Usually in the morning and then after 4. But you'll see there's also a beautiful, stunning terrace here where you see kids still playing soccer. And there's usually nobody here. I mean, maybe, again, June through September, maybe you'll get a handful of people that have found it. But it still remains very authentic. Hope this is not going to bend. Okay. So we've on our last webinar that we will share, we have all the links to the recording for the webinars that we did. We shared a lot more accommodations, but today we really just wanted to focus on one, which may not be sometimes our first pick in the itineraries because it's a little bit higher up on Praiano and it doesn't have, Praiano is divided into a lower part and an upper part divided by the Amalfi Coast Drive, right? Another accommodation that we use, Tramonto d'Oro, is on the lower part, so you have direct access to the water versus Hotel Margherita is a little bit further up. But in terms of what they do and their opening, look, they're only closed January 7th through the 14th of February. So this 4-star hotel on the Amalfi Coast, right? Because people say, but won't everything be closed? Yes, a lot of the hotels where all of the Americans, go to June through October, they will be closed, but the ones that stay open are truly a part of the community. They get supported. They have an amazing restaurant and they do a lot of slow food initiatives. So they're really supported by the local economy and the travelers that go off season. So this is one of the places where I love to stay when I go. And again, the view here is open on both sides. So you have this entire view. You can see all the way to Salerno, and then you can also see on the other side, Positano. So this is a really amazing hotel, still very, very much family owned and run. The owner, Josuela, she's available for any guest basically on WhatsApp, right? So if somebody wants her phone number, she's the type of person that's always there to welcome every single guest. Again, just one other quick accommodation in Praiano. We have a lot more, but one of my favorite villas that it's open year round, it's Villa Milù. Not to be confused with Villa Milù in Ravello, which we also like, but if I had to choose one of the two, also because of the view, this is the view that I was talking about that you get everywhere from Praiano, and right here you have Capri. This is an amazing option for somebody who wants to travel off season, or of course during the season as well, because it is like staying at a hotel, but you have a 3-bedroom villa. You have a cantina stocked with all alcohol, you have the honesty bar, you have somebody that can come and make you breakfast every day, obviously also lunch and dinner upon request. You have a full solarium, a pool, and this is one of the villas, Praiano. It's worth mentioning that Hotel Margherita, no, you can get straight by car, same thing with Tramonto d'Oro. But if you're just looking at villas in Praiano, something you really want to pay attention to is where they're located, because a lot of them are only accessible via steep stairs. This one has 3 accesses. One of them does not have stamp, it's just stairs, it's just a short ramp. And of course, we always have somebody that assists with luggage. But you can see the whole coastline, you can see the Church of San Gennaro. So it's a really beautiful option if your clients are looking to travel maybe during the off season. Oh, another amazing experience that we love in Praiano, and when we base guests in Praiano, they don't even need a transfer because the whole town can be visited. Praiano, it's a small town. There's 10 restaurants, couple of shops, right? But it's still very much a town where people live and farm. So this experience takes place with Giacomo, who's the former president of Slow Food Italia. He just stepped down to focus solely on this, and he added a lot of new experiences that I'm excited to share with you with the San Marzano tomatoes. But this one that takes on in Praiano, you actually visit the small producers, and we can never promise until closer to the day who exactly is going to be, because you're literally going to their home. These are not people that are set up and open for tourism. These are people that are working the lands, and you get to go in and share in the experience and learn about what they're doing. And then you go actually to the garden of Hotel Margherita, you pick some vegetable as well, and then you make a delicious meal. So of course, Giacomo brings his experience to life, and his involvement with slow food really aligns with everything that we stand for. Guided hike along the paths of the gods. This is probably my single favorite thing to do when I go to the Amalfi Coast, because the views are absolutely amazing, uninterrupted. For those of you who are intrepid and want to do it at sunset, it's even more spectacular. The few crowds that make it to the path of the gods, usually don't make the full Nocelle to Bomerano or Bomerano to Nocelle loop, which takes about 4 hours. And that's the other thing I'll say, differently from Cinque Terre, where you can access and bail at every town. The Path of the Gods only has 2 access points, Bomerano and Nocelle. Usually we start people in Bomerano, and if they hike all the way to Nocelle, you are 1,000 steps above Positano. So the really intrepid ones will get to Nocelle, maybe have lunch, then walk 1,000 stairs down, at least not up, and then walk down to Positano and walk around before transferring back. But there's a really amazing experience. If you're an avid hiker, you can do it without a guide, but we highly recommend having a guide. Also, there's a local cheesemaker, the only one who's left along the Path of the Gods that usually we call, and he comes when we take our clients, and he kind of shows his animals and have a little cheese tasting. It's a very rugged experience. So this is not the type of farm experience for somebody that needs a little bit more of setup. You want to swap me? No? Okay. A couple of day trips. So actually, we did put it in here. So another amazing thing that Giacomo just brought to us this year, as he was freeing up his time from his slow food commitment, is the San Marzano cooking class. It's really cool. Again, family-run farm. Not every one of those farms. In fact, most of the farmers involved with those experiences and the slow food, they don't speak English. But we have Giacomo, right? And that's a really beautiful way to bridge the gap. We work with plenty of farms where they're set up for tourism. Maybe the son or the daughter, from the parents that have started the farm, or multi-generational, they speak English. This one, it's a little bit more off the beaten path in that sense, but that's why you have Giacomo that accompanies you throughout the whole experience. So you get to make really amazing food featuring the real authentic San Marzano tomatoes. Pompeii, this doesn't need much explanation, but obviously going to Pompeii, it's one of the day trips that we do from either the Amalfi Coast, so a lot of the times if we have clients staying in Naples and then going to the Amalfi Coast, it's a good in between check out and check in experience to do. But this is actually adding a cooking element, a culinary and traditional element to that as well. Kind of walking through Pompeii's ancient ruins and discovering the food that they used to eat back in the day. Another really cool experience that we have with a family, but this time, that example that I said before, a son and daughter speak perfect English. It's this really cool ceramic workshops that can be combined with a cooking class or a pizza making class. So it's two sisters, one lives downstairs, one upstairs. And so if you have like a group, like we've done a group that was more than eight doing the ceramic, it will be tough. So you can also split the group. Some can do the ceramic, some can do the pizza. This is right above Sorrento. So this can also be done as an experience if people are staying in Sorrento. In fact, from Sorrento, it could also be combined with an e-bike, which would be pretty cool because you're literally going straight up the hills behind Sorrento towards Piano di Sorrento. And this is a really amazing, beautiful view family experience. And again, it's the house that they were born in. And, you know, now they've converted into this really welcoming atmosphere for guests. Biking, yeah, so that's another one of my favorite things to do when it comes to doing active things. Again, in the biking experience on the Amalfi Coast during the busy season, I wouldn't recommend it because there's too much traffic. In Sorrento, however, where you're going behind towards Piano di Sorrento, you can absolutely do it during those busy months as well, because you're not staying along the main road. So this is an experience that we love to combine with either a farm like Turuzziello, up behind Piano di Sorrento, or Casa Alfonsina that we just saw. And again, with the e-bike, obviously you have to be active. You're going up hills, right? But with the e-bike, it's still enjoyable. You don't have to be a CrossFitter to be able to do this experience. So it's really a cool way to see the coast at a slower pace. Okay, let's talk about Capri really quick. As I was saying earlier, you know, we try to discourage people from going to Capri for a day trip. First of all, if you're going by boat, many of you know that you have to pay a disembarkment fee of 100 euros, which has to be paid cash. Or if you want to avoid that, you can go to one of the restaurants where you can dock up to directly, but then you're going to end up paying 250 euros for the meal, right? So either way, I'm glad that they have the fee, but that doesn't seem to stop, 30,000 daily visitors that come on this tiny little island. So during the off season, yes, all the big major players hotels will be closed, and a lot of them will be doing some renovation work, right? They really care about keeping everything painted nicely. So there is a side of Capri that will be a little bit more, not under construction, but getting kind of renovated. But then there's the quieter side of Capri, maybe Anacapri. There's two comuni in Capri like on the lower side, and then Anacapri. And again, there's plenty of people that live here. So if your clients are happy with some luxury suite accommodation type villas, where you get to really share in with your host as well, this is a really good option for the off season. Of course, from Sorrento, it's closer, right? It's not even an hour boat ride. With the ferries less. Excuse me. Ferries for us are completely a no-go during the season because it's just a miserable experience. But you can see how you have only about 13,000 residents in Capri, and you got this number is off. I think it's more like 20 to 25,000 visitors per day. So it gets extremely busy, and 50% of them don't stay on the island. So obviously, if you stay, you're supporting the local economy. And one of the experiences that I'll tell you about later, it's really cool because it's this amazing guy that shared with me that 97% of the food in Capri actually came from the mainland. So I'll tell you more about that in a second. This is just a graph to show you the visitor flow in Capri during the season. So obviously you can see that in the winter, there's not a lot of people that are going there, but it's still a very beautiful and authentic island during that time. Yep, staying overnight, we've already talked about this. Also, yes, avoid the stress and logistics of ferry schedule. So definitely we recommend going by private boat. And then really staying on the island allows you to discover more than just the Marina Grande, where you get to, and there's amazing expensive shops, but it's so busy, right? Because most people that are coming for a day trip, they don't have a mode of transportation to get into the rest of the island. So they all concentrate in Marina Grande, and it becomes, again, a shoulder-to-shoulder environment. One of our favorite small accommodations, which I recommend more in the off season because it is located kind of in the main town of Capri in Marina Grande, is Palazzo M. This will probably be a 5-star. My throat's killing me. Had it not been for the fact that it's not a full hotel. They have a 24-hour reception, it's fully serviced. Their smaller suite, the smallest room is like 60 square meters. What's that in?
It's big.
Yes, it's huge. Of course, they're not open all year round, but because they only have 8 rooms, if you are close to that with a group, even during some of the off season, they will open for that group. And they have amazing views. They're right in town, walking distance to everything, and amazing views of the water. Guys, you may have to step in for me really quick because I'm like about to choke.
Just take your time. Never been.
Sorry, guys, I was feeling a little bit under the weather, and now my throat is really getting me, but we'll try to get you out of here shortly. We're almost there. Thank you for being patient. Another amazing property is Hotel Luna. This is a little bit of a bigger property compared to a standard hotels, but it's still very much family owned and run. And it's a little bit tucked away to where you can still walk to everything. Boy, my throat is killing me. Can you step in? I know he hasn't been to some of these properties, so it's a little bit tough. I'll just
Never seen it.
slow down and
Take your time.
what I love about this place is that it has a more modern, renovated part. They're actually in the process of converting to a 5-star, and then a more traditional, aspect. So it's still been in the same family, and it's in a really beautiful tucked away location with stunning views of the Faraglioni. Beautiful spa and a gym that is just a sea view. They have the glass that just opens out, so you're cycling or running on the water. So Holly and Gianluca, they're some of my favorite people in Capri, are the people that I was trying to tell you if I don't die about earlier. Gianluca, he used to own a restaurant. Holly is Australian, stumbled in Capri when she thought she was getting herself to Ischia, went to his restaurant, they fell in love, and they have kids now. They live on the island full time. And since then, Gianluca decided to close his restaurant because, again, most of 97% of the food was coming from the mainland. And instead, he decided to plant all those gardens around the islands to service the restaurants, right? He was like, I don't need to be another restaurant in the hundreds of them. I'd rather do something meaningful and grow food. It's an island that has the same exact weather as the rest of us. So why is most of the food not being produced there? So he has really made a difference in that food production and planting all those amazing gardens. They welcome you right into their home. He's an amazing chef. He's on the quiet side. She's super bubbly. And you can do everything from limoncello to obviously a cooking class, exclusive dinner, celebrations at their house, and picnic around some of his gardens on the island as well. Vintage car experience. This is probably one of our favorite ways to get around the island in a very slow way. Vintage car does not have AC, so something to keep in mind if your clients are going in August, but it's really cool because they take you around some of the places in Capri that 99% of people that go to the island for a day never get to experience. So definitely recommend this experience. Okay, well, that was a quick transition. Like I said, sorry guys, today I was just feeling a little bit rough, but I'm glad we made it through. One of the small group trip that we're doing, we only have one room left, is exactly that, the Amalfi Coast off season. We'll be going this March. We'll be hiking, cooking. It does have a hiking and culinary focus, but we have, you know, a couple of ladies that are coming that may not be able to do all of the hikes. So it's not just about hiking. It's truly just about experiencing the Amalfi Coast in all the ways that we've just described. In Capri, we're going to be hosted by Holly and Gianluca and spending a lot of time with them. And in Amalfi, we get to stay at one of my favorite properties, Hotel Marina Riviera, which didn't make it in this presentation because of the limited time, but that hotel, if you're traveling off season and can't afford it, even though it's a 4-star, it's quite expensive, it's amazing because you're tucked away in Amalfi, but you're walking distance to everything. So any questions? Let's see. You guys have any questions about the Amalfi Coast? And I'd love to also know from you, you know, we'll send the recording, we'll send a feedback form at the end. We'd love to know for if some of you already were on the previous Amalfi webinar that we did, love to know if this was helpful, more from, again, an educational perspective. And then the next webinar that we're going to be doing is going to be a little bit different than anything we've done. We'll be doing it with Jonathan. But lately, as some of you have noticed, we've been curating a lot of retreats, small group trips with travel advisors. And then we get questions, you know, how do I make my own small group trip or my own retreat? So if you're interested, if you've ever thought about maybe you have your, you know, 10 set of best clients that you would love to take personally on a journey, we are going to be running you through the process of how to create and execute one of those trips with us. So thank you. Yes, hope I feel better. Thank you. Sorry that I was a little bit rough today, but if you have any questions, please let us know. And of course, you'll have our contact afterwards. So. Guess no questions. Great, then we'll let everybody go. We're gonna take a break, so the next one will be in January. So